Welcome to Flats Nation Sound Bites, where we share tips, tricks, and product information to help you better enjoy our sport and lifestyle. And a big shout out to Brother Dave Fader for the awesome music. You can check out more of Dave's phenomenal work on davidfader.com. Welcome back to Flats Nation Sound Bites. In this volume, we will hear another slice of the excellent show with our friend Captain Tommy Derringer as we chat about fly rod selection for redfish, jacks, and other species, which may help you choose your first or your next fly rod. What about fly rod fishing for redfish in that area? What do you feel works the best? 8-weight, 9-weight, 10? What do you like to? Yeah. And I know some of that is going to be dependent upon the size of the flies that you're throwing, so you can get it to turn over. But what do you like that works best in your ecosystem?
I mean, just kind of what you said. I mean, basically 7, 8, 9 weight. If I have, typically fly fishermen will bring their own gear. Being fly fishermen are into that kind of stuff, which is cool. But I usually will recommend, 7, 8, 9 weight. Any of those would work. Of course, if you have a fly rod, if you say that we shouldn't have been talking about this, Dave, because tomorrow the wind's going to be howling now.
Exactly.
So, anytime you mention fly rod, the wind's going to be blowing. So, I always throw one of my 9 weights in the boat when I have, whether somebody's bringing their own stuff or not, just in case the wind starts howling, need a little extra beef to be able to throw it out there a little further. But I would say overall, an 8 weight is probably, if somebody was going to get their first fly rod, I would say an 8 or 9 weight probably be, because there's other things here you can use that for as well.
Sure.
Jabs being one of the main things, and actually, in fact, right now, this time of year, the jack starts showing up as such a fun fish on the fly rod as well.
I was wanting to start a fishing tournament years ago when I was going to call it, You Don't Know Jack. Those dudes, they are bruisers. Especially when you get them ones out there that are the size of a garbage can lid, and they're running in these big schools. They are beasts. We caught one yesterday. We caught one on Monday, which was a few days ago. We caught one off the beach that was probably pushing 40 pounds. We caught 2 of them, actually. Wow.
Yeah, we get this time of year in April, March and April, we get these big spawning schools of them right off the beach, right behind where the waves are breaking. And we're mostly out there looking for cobia on the backs of manta rays, which is also awesome. But in the meantime, when you come by a school of a bunch of those jacks, and they eat a fly really good. They eat anything really.
Oh, they eat anything. I used to target them,
and then they're done.
Oh, they are. They're beast.
Those are our jacks. We call them our jacks.
Exactly. I used to, but they're killing each other trying to get at this thing. It's a blast. It is a blast.
I mean, back to your question though, but yeah, I mean, that 8 weight, that was the first fly rod I ever had, was an 8 weight. And it's, I think depending on which brand you buy, there can be some brands, it's a big jump from the 8 to the 9. Like the 9 will feel like a broomstick to somebody compared to that 8. So I think it's you got to kind of look at that too. But, and a 10 weight's not out of the question. I mean, that's not overkill for some days here when the wind's blowing. So
I used a 10 because to get it to turn over a heavier fly. Some of the flies I was throwing was the size of a mud crab, because that's what I was trying to imitate, or a fiddler. So I just needed something that would turn that over and roll with it. But it was interesting that you brought up a 9 weight, because Hansen brought up a 9 weight too. That's his favorite. And the 9 weight in the market is kind of like the forgotten stepchild as far as, when you look at the rod manufacturers, you generally don't see that many offerings for a 9 weight. Yeah. But you two now are into the 9. I may have to pick up a 9. I know that it has a lot more flexibility, that you can handle even probably small tarpon on it.
It's funny, like I go saying it, and not naming any manufacturer, but just there's quite a few. If you were at a fly shop and you picked up an 8 weight and then picked up a 9 weight right after you just had the 8 weight in your hand, it's a big jump. But I feel like that And here, well, anywhere probably in Florida these days, the fish are spookier.
Sure.
Getting a longer cast is a big deal. You really, if you're coming here to fish for saltwater fish, and I'm sure it's even plays a bigger role when you're talking bonefish and permit, but even with our redfish here, it puts a big premium on being able to really get it out there. That'll up your chances tremendously, being able to make a long fly cast. And I think a 9-weight for a lot of people is probably going to be an easier rod to get more line out there. Technique and everything else, not talking about any of that, just in general, I think a 9-weight can be slung a little further.
Give you an extra 5 or 10 feet that you normally would not be able to accomplish.
Right.
Especially if you're fighting with a birdies. I don't know about
there's a lot of guys that come out and fish with me with a 6-weight, a 7-weight. I mean, and they're great, and these are great fly. And that doesn't matter to somebody that's really good at it, And I don't fall into that. I don't claim to fall into that category. I can get the fly out there, but I'm not one of those guys that a lot of days I'm not too proud to pick up the bigger rod just because I want a little extra distance, And I think that probably would hold true for a lot of people.
Now, are you loading that 9-weight with a 9-weight line, or are you overloading it and putting like a 10 just to get it to give you a little bit more loading capability?
I've never done the overloading thing. I've never done that. I've never experimented with it, to be honest with you. I've always kind of been happy with kind of matching it with what the rod called for. So I know a lot of people do that and they like it. So, but I've never really done that. So
I did it for a period of time because, as I was telling Hansen when I was having the podcast with him, which was just a great podcast. We learned a lot. I learned to fly cast using a fiberglass rod. They're slow. So by putting a heavier line, it took me a while to really get the feel of a graphite fly rod. Of course, they're always changing, they're always improving and getting more expensive every year, in my opinion. But be that as it may, just putting that little bit heavier line on there, for me, slowed the rod down a little bit to get back to the cadence that I was more used to as a kid when I was throwing fiberglass. I'm talking about a buggy whip. You had to stop and wait. It was almost like, if you were going to put it into a shooting analogy, the difference between shooting a modern centerfire rifle versus a flintlock. So, I was just curious because I seem to, when I see that combination where somebody has overloaded a rod a little bit, they seem to be a little bit older generation. And I think that's what it kind of, they're just used to a slower rod.
And I think really it comes down to whatever works for you. Don't,
very true.
Just because, the cool fly guide that, told you not to do it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If it works for you, it works. And I've had some people on the boat with some very strange fly setups and they kill it. They cast it like a pro. It's like, hey man, whatever gets it out there. And that's what you need to use. So that's the way I've always felt about it,
It's like your golf background. It's muscle memory. It's the more times you sit there and strike something, the better you're going to get at it. I totally get that.
And it sounds like the 9-weight gets the vote for the most use cases, be it just fighting the breeze and trying to reach those fish, or something a little bigger shows up that you are now trying to pick a fight with. And just as a reminder, our store's casual and the newer Flats Nation technical wear, which has received some very positive reviews, has been updated. You can review and order them on our site by clicking on the link at the top title bar of our store.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our show today and found it both educational and entertaining at the same time. If you or your company would like to join the team on Flats Nation for a podcast or other coverage, feel free to drop us a quick note at info@flatsnation.com. And now, here's the rest of the song to run the skiff back home with. Tight lines and God bless.